team. Thank you for joining. I like that I can sucker you guys in on I don't even know what day we're at, Tuesday morning or afternoon, depending on time zones. Kate and Andy, appreciate you both being here. We are going to jump right in. And I want to start with like real introductions. Kate, I want to hear a little bit about Brij. I want to hear about your background, how you got here. And I will definitely bug you with some follow-up questions. And then Andy, I'll hand it off to you next.
Awesome. Aaron, thanks for having me. Hi, everyone. I'm Kate Stevens. I'm the founder and CEO of Brij. My quick background, I started my career, I was investing. So I covered retail for PIMCO. So thinking a lot about Omni-Channel, future of retail. Fun fact, PIMCO actually has massive exposure to malls and retail. So I was spending a lot of time thinking about like what is the future of in-person and offline retail. And I discovered the problem that we're focused on solving at Brij, which is when a brand sells through third-party retail, they lose their end customer. Turns out that's a $1 trillion problem that has remained unsolved for a long time, for forever, actually. Couldn't stop thinking about this. Ended up going back to business school. I went to Harvard Business School, where I met my co-founder, Zach. And he and I started working together and iterating on this idea, launched Brij out of school. So we graduated in the pandemic, which really was an accelerant for, as everyone knows, e-commerce, but also a brand's ability to know and understand who their customer is and have that first party data by setting up an e-commerce presence. So brands were no longer willing to ignore that the power of data. And so started Brij to bridge the offline and online, to bridge that relationship between a brand and its customer. Really built this powerful platform to help omni-channel brands collect first-party data across any channel that they sell through. And really privileged to work with some of the best brands in the world, from really across categories, from Skull Candy and Feastables to Heineken and Once Upon a Farm. So love what I do. I guess that's my full-time job. My second full-time job is that I am a mom of 2 girls, Harper, who's almost 3, Hadley, who just turned 1, and walked on her first birthday, which was a really fun timing for her, for that milestone.
I have a 7 and almost 9-year-old, 2 girls. So if you need any advice, I obviously know everything.
Girl dad.
No
Love
problem.
that.
Yeah, I should be wearing my girl dad hoodie right now. Kate, I actually have a quick couple of follow-ups. Andy, you just hang out for a minute. We're gonna have an adult conversation as parents. My immediate follow-up is when you say omni-channel, like anywhere a brand is, like that's like, hey, you sell wholesale, you have your own brick and mortar store, you sell through Amazon, like it's truly anywhere. And then your software will like help the brand understand who their consumer is.
Yeah. So we define, I think that there's like 2 buzzwords in the space. There's unified commerce, there's omni-channel. I think everyone uses them differently. But the way that I will define it for purposes of our conversation is the consumer lens. So a consumer shops across all channels, and honestly, including from influencers. So it becomes really relevant to our conversation here with Andy. We believe that we know consumer shop omnichannel. Brands with more data is better for the consumer, the brand, and the retailer. That's kind of fundamental to our worldview. So yes, we define it as wherever a consumer interacts with your brand, whether that is through wholesale like grocery and Target, through owned brick and mortar, or through your e-commerce owned site, or through like an Amazon.
And then one more quick follow-up. You studied this ecosystem. What were your assumptions when you were the analyst looking at how people are building stuff? Like, is there anything where you had like complete conviction that you've realized, oh, actually I'm wrong on this, that there is a reason a mall exists, or take it wherever you want?
So I think that physical retail exists to be experiential. So that I think is like one of these pieces that is what people and consumers want, like in person, to have experiences. And so that sometimes means just like it's discovery, it's understanding like what it looks and feels like, or, maybe it's, having a unique interaction with the brand. So that's kind of what I view IRL and physical retail as like an incredibly important aspect of. Like, I fundamentally do not agree with any conviction that the world will be 100% e-commerce and there's no need for in-person retail. And so I think that that's something that I've like studied and have strong conviction around. The other piece that I have like very strong conviction in is like IRL needs to be better, or just like offline needs to be better. I was investing in the space when it was early e-com, so it was pre-COVID, but I, as a consumer, enjoyed personalization. And so another piece that I have strong conviction in is that consumers want and enjoy more personalization. Right now, that happens really in silos, depending on the channel that you shop through. And so I think that that is the piece that I'm looking to solve is like, how do you get personalization at scale across all channels?
Of course. Thank you for having us, Aaron. Yeah, I'm Andy. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Superfiliate. We're a creator marketing platform that help brands at all stages of the creator partnerships lifecycle, from finding great creators to getting product in their hands to then, tracking and attribution and showing value across all parts of the funnel. So whether that's, content for paid ads or affiliate revenue or brand awareness, we just want to make it super easy for brands to find and execute on those partnerships and ultimately move the needle on customer acquisition, retention, and awareness. Prior to starting this company with my co-founder Anders, who at the time was my roommate, now best friend and probably enemy at some points, I was spent my whole career on the investing side. So I was doing early stage venture capital, pre-seed through Series A. I actually was working at a firm in St. Louis. I remember a pitch back in 2017 from this little returns company called Loop. And, shows how good of an investor I was because I'm not on that cap table. And they ended up getting a lot bigger than when I first saw it. But yeah, so I got into the e-commerce space really at, early days of these Shopify apps, early movers raising money, building. I remember back in the day, everybody was like, oh, you can't build an actual business inside an ecosystem like Shopify. And, you're just a plug-in. And now obviously we have a much more vibrant ecosystem outside of that. But then when I met, my co-founder Anders, he had spent his whole career in the creator economy, building platforms and tools to help people that were creating anything, whether it's photography, digital art, you name it, and helping them monetize. And then we started to build Superfiliate to kind of bring that to the brand side and help brands leverage what was like obviously becoming a piece of the economy that was taking more, consumer attention as well as budget.
That was wonderful. Thank you. And I love the vision. Actually, I want to jump in on one piece. I want to come back to the investing side in a minute. But first, you said something that was interesting to me, which is like using Superfiliate both for the customer acquisition side and the retention side. Can you go a little deeper on both of those and like what's different now that's possible that wasn't possible a couple years ago or before Superfiliate? Like, yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I think one thing that's very obvious is like, obviously people think so much about acquiring customers, but then, similar to a software company that wants to upsell new products and expand accounts, brands are thinking about that the exact same way. They're trying to introduce their customer base to new products that they're launching or, retaining those customers, and creators are oftentimes like an amazing way to get the message out in a more authentic way. We all know that we get the emails 1,000 times a month from 1,000 brands that say, shop our new set or here's our new product or whatever. And like a lot of those ought to get auto filtered into a part of my inbox or something like that. Sometimes I see them. I probably once a month off one of those. But then also now, we think about how do we help a brand, get that very organic, authentic, native placement and awareness for new product launches. So, you have let's say you're selling a protein powder and you're launching a colostrum and you want to tell your customers, like, you like protein powder, this colostrum can probably help you out. You're going to hit them with that email and that's going to hit some segment of the customers. But then what about all those existing people who have bought from you in the past and follow you on Instagram or whatever? Now I look back and I say, wow, I've had so many successful creator partnerships throughout, the lifetime of our company. How do we re-engage those people to get the word out? So like in Superfiliate, make it really easy to go and say, hey, we want to filter for our top 200 people across this metric, one click, get product in their hand. We already have their address. We already know everything about them. Let's get this new product in their hands, source the content, have them create it, have them maybe post, give us content for paid ads, you name it. And just use this as like a new amplification channel for everything from, of course, new customer acquisition, but also that like lifetime nurturing of a customer, getting more products in front of them at different points of the life cycle.
I love it. I actually want to stay on retention stuff. Let me take a minute weirdly to introduce myself, just because like all we think about is retention. So, right, I know the two of you know me, but I know there are a lot of people who don't. I ran a brand for a while and then started a company called Passport that does international shipping for a bunch of D2C brands, and then was the president of Loop Returns, which is still my water bottle of choice, I'll have you know. But then, yeah, co-founded Orita about a year and a half ago. And the conceit of Orita is literally, it's so tied in with what you're talking about, which is like all we think about is incrementality. We are an AI customer segmentation company, and we help a brand get the absolute most out of their list. It's not go find new people. It's like, hey, you've got 1 million people right, in your email list. How do you go maximize that? But the framing that we always bring is like, it's definitely not blast everybody. And Andy, to your point, it's like you may actually land in Sue's inbox, but email may not be the channel to move Sue to make a purchase. So it's like, how incrementally do you go? And for us, we actually think about it as first, don't send anything if she's going to buy. If not, email. If not, text. If not, direct mail. If not, retargeting. And I actually hadn't quite processed the retention component of influencer marketing. So thank you for kind of walking through that. Kait, I want to stay on retention for a minute, right? Like a lot of, even how I thought about Brij up front was so much tied to like, oh, get a new customer. She bought through this channel. Let's go bring her back. How much of your product is focused on like the retention aspect, or like not just bringing in new customers, but identifying somebody who's bought a bunch in the past and kind of tying that data?
It's extremely tied to retention. I mean, I think the way that we think about Brij is the best way to drive more value with customers is to have a relationship with them, i.e. their data. Right now, most customers, most brands do not have a relationship with their consumers who buy through retail. And so that is like core to what we are enabling, which is helping brands acquire first-party data from their customers wherever they shop. And so that can be by entering sweepstakes. That could be registering your warranty. And what we're able to do that's, really different than what anyone else has done in the past is we are tying that to a brand's Shopify and Klaviyo. We are tagging it with the channel that they purchased from. We are tagging it with the product that they purchased from. And we're also, looking, does that customer already exist in Shopify or Klaviyo? So is this net new? Is it an existing customer so that they can speak to them differently? And those integrations are really robust in a way that this brand can now speak to that customer and bring them through a retention marketing flow because they know that that customer has purchased this specific product from Amazon or from Target. So they can drive them even to purchase. If they're not a direct consumer buyer, they can drive them to do more shopping or repurchase more product in Target or Amazon, whatever is that native shopping channel for them.
Super cool. Yeah, the pending the data back and then having folks use it. Andy, I assume for you guys it's very similar where like the more data you
Yeah.
can access, the better.
Well, and I think too, actually, to Kate's point, I think this is where we're seeing a ton of attention. Retail is obviously becoming like more of a part of the conversation. And I think when you think about our platform or even influencer as a channel, I think one of the things that's very hard to communicate to, whether it's the influencer marketer or the influencer marketer, communicating up to leadership is it's not like a one metric ROI calculation. Like, is this channel working for us? So like one thing that we get a ton of today is we're doing a retail campaign, a launch in Erewhon, or we're doing a launch in Sprouts, and we want to use creators to drive foot traffic or get people there. And then, they use our platform, find them, whatever, and they maybe spend, let's say, 2x their normal budget. And then of course, when you look in like your attributable, affiliate link sales, it's not going to be there because the goal of the campaign was actually not to move the needle affiliate sales and stuff. So, in a prior world, somebody might say campaign's a failure. But if you think about as we get better about connecting that offline online relationship, you can start to see, okay, not only, in the past that might have been, okay, we got, 400,000 impressions, great, whatever. Now, as we think about more of these campaigns pushing people to retail, we as a platform have to figure out how can we help give these people an answer to say, which dollars were spent well, which dollars were thrown away. And the only way that that ends up happening is actually getting that online to offline connection. So, Kate, I was actually thinking about you the other day. I was in the little store down here, and there's this random little magnesium drink that I get. And I don't know if it was a Brij experience. If it wasn't, I will reach out to them. But I scanned the QR code and I went in there and then I actually bought online. And I had probably spent, I don't know, maybe the brand likes this or not. I had probably spent $200 on these drinks, one off just walking in. And I just instantly bought for $90, probably 2x the bottles that I had got. But now they know who I am. And they know that like Andy at 462, well, I shouldn't say my address, Andy in Williamsburg, drinks this drink. Now, like when they want something new, they're going to send it to me. And it was just like an interesting, like sometimes we live these customer journeys because that's what's fun about this space is like we are the customer in our own ways, in our own products. So it's just something I've been thinking about a lot. And it's something, frankly, that's just coming up way more in our customer conversations because it is omni-channel per the
Yeah.
topic of this conversation.
I actually wanted to build, I mean, Andy, we should have a better partnership, like one, because there's obviously so much, like you help distribute the tools that collect data for our customers that drive more of that attribution and revenue. I think one of the like turning points in our business is the ability we can quantify that customer that shops offline and the revenue that we drive online for them. We call it revenue per contact. What we aspire to be able to do is quantify that in the offline world as well. But something that we've seen just like as a distribution strategy for our campaigns or data collection tools, especially for retail. So for example, we did a nationwide campaign with Chamberlain Coffee. They ran a sweepstakes and they used obviously big influencer backed business. They used their social channel to help drive traffic to any participating grocery store to purchase the product in store. They had like tear offs on their end cap to scan a QR code, so you could enter the sweepstakes as part of like the social, or you could enter it in store. But as part of that flow, they had to purchase the product, take a picture of their receipt, and upload it to Brij. And so then you get that in store like sale attribution. So retailers love it. You as the brand get the data on the consumer who's purchasing it. And then we were also able to track the future D2C sales of that customers. That 360 degree approach and having more like data on how it performed is like super top of mind for our customer base.
This is so fascinating. I want to turn to a problem that we have that I'm really curious for both of you. We do great when we're working with a sophisticated buyer. So with Orita, we're telling you how to get the most out of your email. And there's like short-term stuff. Hey, Kate, you email a third of your list. Actually, there's like 4% more that are really, really excited to hear from you that you're not emailing, right? There is a big value prop that we have, which is like actually medium and long-term, which is your click rate is under 1%. We get your click rate to 2%. You now can go make more money from email. But I don't want to tell a brand in 6 months, we're taking credit for 20 basis points of email growth, incremental something, something. And so a huge benefit for us is we partner with agencies who know email better than anybody, right? And we're like their outsourced machine learning team. But I really struggle, and this isn't like the brands are wrong, it's we are wrong, with showing the universe of value we create in not a BS way. Because like we would rather under promise and over deliver. And so like we don't agree with email attribution. We think that you should actually be thinking about incrementality. For both of you, you guys have both just given examples where it's like we are creating a lot of value. Andy, yours very salient is, yeah, the campaign looks like it did worse, but actually the goal was somewhere else. How are you bridging the gap, or how are you helping like, it's not about you guys. Like, how does a brand, like a best-in-class brand, look when they're bringing on a new strategy or a new channel that is actually definitionally like noisy or vague? How do you help brands understand that they're successful? Andy, I want to start with you, but I think we can all like extract some insights. And Kate, obviously, please jump in.
Yeah, I mean, I think like when you're thinking about launching, well, let's just use influencers as an example. I think like it all has to tie back to some high arcing strategy of like, this is the stuff that we have laid out that will lead us to success or the best chance of success. Then you kind of think about what KPIs are we measuring? And then how are we willing to understand like where this strategy fits into driving those KPIs? So when I think about influencer, like one of the things that, to your point on the sophistication, Aaron, is like, big brand comes to us and says, hey, we know this channel is important. And we tell them, okay, great. Like, what's important to you? And they're like, well, actually, we need it. We need content for our paid team. We need, we want affiliate sales. We need to see 200 creators a month, and we need brand engagement metrics that are X. We're like, great. Here's how you do that. 1, 2, 3. I would say the more common intro is, hey, we're bringing on creator. We want to have a 3X ROI on last click attributed sales via affiliate links. Then, that's where we can kind of say, okay, we can try our best there, but like, let's zoom out and think about like the broader value that this channel is driving. And I think that comes into a ton of customer education is like, hey, if you're willing to go, I had a great call with a very, high level CEO that you all would all recognize on Twitter the other day. And he had this amazing insight where he was just like, I go to a paid agency. I will pay a paid agency all day long, 10% of spend to cover creative costs, all this stuff, XYZ, if it's performing, and I will just keep scaling budget there until it doesn't scale no more. And he was like, so why would I not go to a creator and give them 4%? And they're going to feel like they're crushing it because 4% of a number that could get arbitrary, very large is the best partnership they've ever done. And he's like, the math is very simple there. And like, when you think about it, anybody would say I'd go with number one. Not anybody would say I'm willing to pay this creator $24,000 next month because I spent $6,000 on their ad or whatever. Because like you have to reposition, and there is that education of like, hey, if this looks like success over here, then this should look like success there. And I think sometimes there's a little like light bulb that goes off. Sometimes there's a little resistance, and I think for us, it's really a lot around showing like, here's the ways that we could think about success. What do you, brand owner or influencer marketing manager, care about? And then how can we take you on a 6 to 12 month journey of figuring out how this plays a larger role in your organization? And I think that's actually something that we've had to get better at as a business, is not plotting that 30-day journey, but plotting that 12 month journey. And I think as you're able to build that story, you'll have more successful people. But I think naturally also, not everybody has the luxury, particularly given some of the stuff you mentioned earlier, uncertainty in the market, macro, all the stuff. But to the extent that we can, we push people to think about this like journey of opening a channel, and not this like flash in the pan moment of opening a channel to like save us.
Hey, I want to.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with so much of that. First thing, like we are the experts, not the brands. And so in the kindest way possible, brands have to be good at so many freaking things. Like how are they good at offline to online, email marketing, automation, optimization, influencer, and by the way, like building good products and like paid. They have to be good at so many things. And so we are the experts in offline to online. There's no doubt in my mind. And so we need to guide brands on how to be best effective in their category at executing on that. So that is definitively something. I mean, Andy, to the point you made, we have to understand what their higher level goals are so that we can support that. Are they launching a new retailer? Do we need to help support the fact that they're launching this new retailer? So here's the tools in our toolkit to support that. At the end of the day, we need to ground what we are doing in the data. And I think that there are so many pieces of our platform that are not grounded in data. And I think, Andy, you can relate to this too. Our landing page experiences are beautiful. And that is absolutely a reason that our brands buy us, but it is not the number one thing that I am going to sell them, because I need to ground what I'm selling in data. And so I'm bringing everything back to that revenue per contact, because what that allows me to do, and so this comes back to, we need to give a brand the tools to understand how to quantify what is a new behavior. And so what I like to say about our business is that before Klaviyo, there was MailChimp. Brands had newsletters, and they would send a monthly newsletters to customers. Klaviyo has allowed brands to quantify the value and the impact in cohorts of sending those emails. That is absolutely an inflection point in a completely new way that brands are thinking now about email or SMS. And so we're doing the same thing now for offline. I think before Brij, brands intuitively understand that owning the customer that shops them in retail or Amazon is valuable, but they had no idea how to think about that. So we have given them the tools to understand, to segment, and to quantify that. And I totally, Aaron, relate to not wanting to overstate our attribution, but what you need to do is do something first, because a brand is not going to figure this out without you. You need to put together a framework and a calculation that is grounded in data and truth that they can then react to. And you can tell them, hey, this is, the average revenue per contact that we see in CPG that we've seen from customers like Momofuku, Once Upon a Farm. And so this is a fair revenue per contact, and this is the penetration or the registration rate that we'd expect you to get. And here's the math. And here's your sales and what we'd expect to get from that. And then they can make their own assumptions around what's fair. But and that's actually been a turning point in our business. In the absence of that, brands don't know how to think about it in a quantitative way. And so thus then you're just a number. And so I think giving that perspective, Andy, I really liked your perspective on putting it next to how they think about other ad spend, because that is where so much of their budget is going. But you have to give them the calculations first to react to and ground it in, in that data.
I love it. I mean, I think at the end of the day, not surprisingly, but all three of us are look, ultimately this is in service of the brand's higher order objectives. And there's always a trade-off. And even if there's a high ROI from a tool or a channel or something, it's you could still spend your time doing other stuff. You could still find value from other pieces. So first make sure it's like really in service of the brand and then like help break down. I want to stay on just like a couple quick follow-ups for both of you that are on my mind. And then I want to switch gears and talk a little bit about, I want to go into the investing side of things and like the Shopify ecosystem and just your perspectives. And then maybe if we have time at the end to spend a little bit more time, just like go back to being a founder and an operator and like kind of what you're seeing in the ecosystem. Kate, I want to stay with you for one. Thinking about omni-channel, and everybody says omni-channel or it's like connected, whatever you want to call it. Are there specific metrics that prove like something is working for a brand? Or like if you were advising, forget Brij for a minute, you're advising a brand, they're like, hey, we want to be omni-channel. I don't even know. How would you start helping them think about measuring success across channels?
Yeah. I think not to like beat a dead horse, but owning data from all of your customers. So I think like the most sophisticated brands we've seen in the space are starting to calculate LTV by channel or even an omni-channel LTV. And so what like a brand will see if they're digitally native launching in retail, their overall LTV is going to go down when they launch in retail, but their revenue is going to go up because some of their ad spend or even their ROAS is going to go down because that ad spend is now influencing their Amazon sales, their retail sales. However, their overall revenue is going up. So it is a very imperfect calculation, but the most sophisticated brands are at least thinking about like by channel, but then also how does that level up to our LTV and our cost to acquire customers? Because a core, I think like success metric of, a brand doing omni-channel well is thinking about the fact that retail is really efficiently acquiring customers. So if they can, I've even heard brands refer to acquiring customers through retail as negative CAC because they are making a margin on that customer, on the distribution that these retailers have. And so thus, if they could own that customer data after acquiring them more efficiently, then drive an incremental revenue. So I think that those are some of the core metrics. It is an imperfect calculation at this point in time, but going through the exercise of trying to separate out those calculations by channel, but then also some way from an org structure of also thinking about how you're aligning incentives of the team to be focused on omni-channel. Because if you have someone that's in a silo only focused on D2C metrics and some of their ad budget is benefiting retailer Amazon, those are not necessarily aligned. So you need to also think about how those metrics level up from a KPI and org structure so that you're thinking about how those things all work together.
That's great. Andy, if you want to chime in there, great. If not, I've got another question for you.
We can keep rolling.
All right.
We'll
You're like,
fire
Kate
away.
crushed
But
it.
I did love that.
You're like, once again, Kate had a great answer. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
I wanna like get
Better to not follow it, right?
that's right. That's
Yeah, we
right.
don't want the A/B test.
I'll ask you about Superfiliate. Yeah, Andy's answer not good.
Yeah,
I want to get slightly tactical on like Superfiliate in a weird
yeah,
way. If I had a 50K budget and I was coming to you and I've decided, hey, I'm gonna go get into creator, or I'm like as vague as that, like, hey, I've heard about this. I should play around. What's the right way to start? Is it like go find 50 micro, go find one person who's like really expensive and has a big audience? Like, how do you like walk before you run and figure out what is right for your brand?
yeah. I think so. You come in and you say, "Hey, I want to get started," and you've got budget. I think that's the first thing. Is like, that is a part of this channel. There is a cogs to this channel, which is there are people on the other side making content, posting whatever. They have a market value. So I think that is the first thing is I would have budget, whether that's seeding product, you name it. Then I think you just kind of have to ask, Aaron, to our exact point, what is your goal? Like, if you're a brand that is in that 5 million a year mark and you need to get to 25, probably the easiest way to do that is cracking paid. Like, if you can keep scaling paid efficiently to get there, you should probably do that. Now it's like, how can Superfiliate / a creator strategy help us do that? So many different ways. One, sourcing content for your paid strategy. So you can be finding good UGC creators that you feel are brand aligned to get you content that you could run paid ads behind. Now you can start to think about how can we go the next level with some of those creators and put budget on something like a meta partnership ad where you're actually running the ad from a creator's account. So I think there's like, and if that is your part of the strategy, absolutely throw your budget, find great content creators, help amplify them, help them grow their brand, align your incentives, you name it. I think if I'm like zooming out, I'm like, hey, I need to make sales. I need to be seeing like dollars in, dollars out in a very quick way with these creator partnerships. I do think it's not spray and put, but it is very targeted tactical gifting to creators that you think you have some sort of story connection. I think a lot of people say, give me this database with 100 million creators in there and I can just go find whatever. And it's like, at the end of the day, you need to find, it's like kind of the 1,000 true fans or whatever. That's kind of where a creator strategy starts too. Is like, who are those 1,000 people across a couple different profiles, demographics, you name it, that are really like brand advocates that like you feel like your brand speaks to and they resonate, get product in their hands, get feedback, really engage them in the process. Some of that's going to be gifted products. Some of that will be paid, a small fee for content creation and stuff like that. And then I think it's all around like, how are you aligning your incentives with them to get the most out of that budget? So like product cost, yes, get that out there. But then it's like you reach out, somebody says, I love your brand, but I'm $5,000 a post. Come back with some, hybrid arrangement that allows you to like cap that downside risk. Because Aaron, you said, hey, do I go and spend it all on one creator? Absolutely not. You can kind of think about it like portfolio theory. Like, you can diversify risk away over time and by getting to a certain amount. But I think you also need to try to show them like a path to upside. And I think some of our best customers are people who really view those creators as partners, and they're actually not going into it with a mind of how do I spend as little on this relationship. It's actually going into these partnerships with like, how do I make sure that when I'm spending and I'm winning, you're winning, and those things are always mutually aligned. And I think those could oftentimes end up in like, we're capping our like downside risk by saying we'll go here on a flat rate and then we will pay you some percent of ad spend that we put behind your content, or of course affiliate revenue, CPA, thinking about it that way. But I also think too, like when I think about brands getting started too in the strategy, you need to do something to stand out from the noise. There's so much competition in the market and so many people are converging on the same creators and stuff. And it's like, how do you stand out? Sometimes that's a story. Other times that's hey, we don't believe in the 20% commission model. We're willing to pay Meta $70 for a customer. Guess what? We're willing to pay you, Aaron, $70 for a customer. So then you kind of can like blow through that noise of saying, we're going to come in with a structure that is so much more attractive to you and interesting to you as a creator that and you kind of start off the partnership from that like synergistic, symbiotic approach. And we see that's like how small creator or smaller brands bust in. And then you get to that point where ironically, creator strategies become filtering of inbound as much as they are outbound because creators want to work with you. You have a good reputation. They know that you have budget. They know, so it is always this interesting thing to watch it twist because like I'll get on a call. One brand's like, how do I find creators? The next call is like, I get 10,000 requests a day. How do I sift through that? And I'm like, well, we have a tool for both of you, but let's talk through that. So it's, it's kind of a non-answer there, but like hopefully it makes a little sense.
I'll tell you what, the thing that you definitely flipped how I think about this is on that rev share side and being like, look, let's cap downside, but we really want you to be extremely successful. And like, if you're successful, we want you to make more and more and more. I mean, you could even do it where it's like, hey, if you hit above this, you start making a higher percentage, right? Like you could go the other way.
We'll set that up in the product in 2 minutes. We got that ready to go.
I like that.
You want to gamify?
An accelerator. Let's do this, man. My watch company. So I ran a print-on-demand watch company for a long time. This was a 3-month project that turned into 7 years and a lot of gray hair. But we started doing influencers in like 2015. And we had this woman, Catherine Lowe, who was on The Bachelor or Bachelorette. I like literally don't remember. And we did a design for her. And I think the next day we sold like $100,000 worth of watches, if I'm not mistaken. And she got a 20% rev share. And we're like, is that just keep talking about us? Like, go for it. And we started doing, and then we started finding all these like nano influencers, which is like, this person has influenced over 40 people in her community. Awesome. Like, let us go do something and like reward you for that. And so spiritually, I'm with you, but I love the framing of like, you're not like trying to be cheap. You want that person to be successful. And I think when you do that, you create abundance. One more very quick follow-up, and then I want to switch gears. When people come to you and they're thinking about budget, is it just removing a different performance channel or downgrading a performance channel? Like, where do people find budget when they start moving into creators?
It's a good point. It's all about the incremental best spend of the next dollar, right?
Yeah.
The marginal dollar. So I think when you're thinking about a creator strategy, and like, I think oftentimes it's probably going to be coming from a net new budget of like, hey, we're expanding, we're growing, and this is a channel that we want to try. I think like for me to look a founder in the eye and say, you need to take this budget from this channel there. It all depends on also what was the, return on that last dollar you spent. Hey, if paid ads have capped out, it's going to be way easier for me to say, let's take some of that budget and try it over here. Cause I promise we can probably squeeze a little more juice out of it.
Yeah.
Once again, though, like we mentioned, if you're scaling ads, 3x ROAS and you're just going off, I'm probably going to say, maybe we'll take some of this growth and like as you start to think about that expanded budget, let's start to siphon some off. But like, keep doing what you're doing. Let's see if we can amplify. So I think usually it's probably going to come from net new budget that's part of an expansion, as opposed to like we're going to come and take this budget that exists today. And put it into ours. However, I do think what I like to say now, though, is as we start to see more ad types and more like inventory, if you want to call it, in terms of ways to work with creators, I think it's really around shifting spend from like, we have partnership ads with Meta is something that's like starting to gain a lot of steam, in that ecosystem. And it's like, hey, last month you ran, $100,000 of budget and next month you went around 120,000. Let's take that, 10 of that incremental 20 and let's put it on partnership ads on an influencer's account. And let's see if we see any lift on that ad set that you're running in that format. So that way you're still in that paid channel. You're not saying I need to like disrupt what I'm doing, but we're going to give you another lever to pull to try to push performance on the platform.
That's great. All right, thank you. I'm going to switch gears. I want to talk about investing for a little bit, and maybe this will just be the last topic. All three of us have like in different ways, shapes, and forms. You guys are like professional. I'm like the really shittiest small angel investor on a lot of people's cap table. I'm like $5,000. Let's go. Right. So like a lot of money, but in the scheme of a business, I create zero value for them. I used to think that you could build a public company on the Shopify ecosystem, and I've had a lot of punches to the face thinking about that. Like obviously Klaviyo and Yapo's on the way, right? There are some big companies that we've kind of talked about. I'm curious when you guys think put on your investor hat and you think about investing in the commerce ecosystem, do you look at brands? Do you look at commerce tech companies? Do you think about commerce tech companies that need to expand outside of Shopify or outside of commerce and go do stuff? Kait, I want to start with you, and then Andy, like just jump in. I know you both have thought a lot about this.
Yeah. So I'll take this a couple of different directions. One, I mean, like there are different business, like I would rather be a software business model than a physical product business model. Like it is very clearly scalable. And what's really hard, and I angel invest as well in the space because in both software and in consumer brands because I love the space. But like to like triple revenue as a consumer brand, like a physical product, it means you need to resell that same amount on top of then adding, that triple every single year. So I think that is really hard. And I think it's incredible when you have these incredible brands that can do that. But I think as a business model, there's like so much that is hard inventory about physical product. And then, in the software space, I think that there's obviously really big companies to be built. My perspective in, building Brij and thinking about this pretty intentionally is that I'm glad that I'm not a Shopify plugin. I personally see a lot of opportunity. I mean, Shopify is moving into enterprise, and I think that being and building connected to that ecosystem is going to continue to grow. However, like we're building in commerce, not e-commerce. And I see, frankly, a crap ton of white space there. Retail is 3 times the size of D2C. Klaviyo drives a third of revenue for D2C brands. So that's a $3 trillion opportunity in retail. So I'm obviously super bullish about the size of that market opportunity in commerce, but I think that is different than e-commerce. And I know, honestly, Andy, you and I have had conversations about, market size. So I'll kick it over to you to like share your own perspective there.
Yeah. I mean, I'll chop this a couple ways too. I think first off, just like right away, 3 of the top 10 market cap companies, Meta, Amazon, Google, that is mostly driving some sort of commerce. I think traditionally we have always gotten, caught up with, hey, like commerce has to mean Shopify, has to mean app, has to mean install on this website for whatever. And I think like over time, I think you look at companies and like the story has to be that you're getting beyond that. It can be an amazing place to start. And, like that ecosystem was an absolute catapult when it comes from everything like APIs to build upon, from product to billing to everything. However, I think like if you were going to go raise like big venture capital, I think like it is very hard to pencil in the math to say we're going to be in this fairly constrained ecosystem and build a business of Y size. I think what has to happen is you need to think about like, hey, like over time, you will get more data into how that ecosystem that you're in is evolving, which like, frankly, I'm very bullish on the Shopify ecosystem. And like, I view Shopify winning and moving up market as us winning and moving up market because I think we are an incredible complement to that platform. Is that a requirement to use Superfiliate and succeed? No, it is not, because we've started to make sure that, hey, if we're going to have these huge ambitions, yes, we want to go there, but then we have to think about these other massive opportunities out there. I mean, Meta, 8% of their spend, fastest growing category of their ad spend last quarter, commerce, even despite all of this stuff. So you start to think about, okay, now there's a 1.5 billion or trillion market cap company. How can we start to like think about what's important to them as an ecosystem and start to think about, I've mentioned these partnership ads and stuff like that. So I think like if you're an investor, almost no investor would say, this unicorn did exactly what I thought they were going to do at the pre-seed. It's like, no, it's like I'm betting on some great people who are going to go in there and they're going to like take a first hill and then they're going to take a step back and they're going to look and see where's the next hill. It looks a little higher. Let's go get that. And then you're going to take a step back and like, even just listen to like a Cloyd earnings call. And it's not like, hey, we're moving down market to get every $19.99, every $19.99 a month customer in the Shopify ecosystem. It's no, we actually track one of our like 6 reported KPIs that accounts over 50K in ACV. And like, that is what they track, quarter over quarter. And we're expanding internationally and we're doing this. So I think it's like, I believe, that you're going to build a publicly traded company off like, people finding you in the app store and building? No, but I think there's a lot of great businesses to be built doing that. However, once you raise money, like your fundraising strategy in some ways is your strategy and vice versa. I think, and I think that's like for us at Superfiliate, we have tried to say like from the start, every time we raise money, it is going to be to get enough information to make the decision on if we should raise more money in the event that we need to. And I think like that comes from the background on the investing side of like, hey, like there's some great businesses that get to 20 million in ARR, and that is where that is a great business for that person. And there's some businesses that get to 500 million in ARR. And like, did Andrew and them at Klaviyo think on day one that they were going to be where 300 or 400 billion, whatever billion ARR they're at today? Like, I don't know, maybe, but that was maybe a little clearer of a picture to see. So I think there's that side of things, like on just like, can this sustain the market cap? Like, I would hate to say this is, and any analyst watching a company go public would hate to hear there's a ceiling to our market cap, and it is some portion of the market cap of the ecosystem that we're building in. Like, that doesn't feel like a great pitch. I mean, Kait, you've been a part of much bigger, later stage stuff than I have, but I don't think people like to hear that. But that's that part of the question. I forgot the second part.
It's good. I love this. It's really helpful to hear. I mean, Andy, one thing that I want to double click on is like, I talk to a lot of early stage founders and they're like talking about their investment round. I'm like, the goal is not to raise money. The goal is to return money, right? I tell our team that if we raise money, I'm like, this is cool, but like the whole point of this cash is to de-risk, to go earn the right to raise more or to, whatever it is, but like, how do you go ultimately return money to investors? We have a couple minutes. I actually want to, I don't know if this will work. Andy, you are now an operator. Kait, I'm going to give you more time to think through this. When you're an investor, you have assumptions about how a founder is going to operate. You've written checks, you've looked at companies. What are the things that you were like, why aren't they doing this, that are actually you're finding hard for you, or you've had to grow into as an operator yourself? Where like, why the heck are they acting like this? Or what are the mistakes that you find yourself being like, this is actually much harder than I thought?
I'll take this 2 different ways. I think one of those is just like on the outside looking in from the investor, you always think like this founder must just like, I don't want to say data integrity, but just like there's times where the metrics, things are moving so fast. And like you ask the founder, you're like, what's your MRR? And somebody would be like, well, if you look at it this way, and I'd be like, this is fake. And then now somebody asks you now, and you're like, well, it actually kind of depends because we've got this like, variable fee over here, and it depends on the month. And, this person paid annually. And like, I used to think that was like a sign of this founder doesn't know their business. And you're like, no, there actually is nuance and like all sorts of metrics. Like there's nuance in so many pieces of the business, and there's just so many things going on that like, yeah, maybe, I mean, not, and like MRR is a bad one because I think we all know pretty good, but there are like so many metrics moving so fast all the time. And I think like it is not a sign of ignorance of someone's business to not, have everything in the back of their mind in terms of like these, specific metrics and stuff. Now, there are times when you need to be tight on the metrics. If you're going to raise, you better know your stuff inside and out. And you better be able to, like, when that investor says net revenue retention, boom, here it is. Here's the sheet. Go check it yourself. Show my work. Here you go. But like, if I'm like a board meeting or whatever, somebody, you're like a little less certain, or you're like, there's nuance. I think like being a little more understanding of that. But then I like to take this question where it's like, what did I not understand about building a business when I was an investor? And I think, especially at the early stages, I was so overly applying like a mathematic formula to this like art that is like early stage company building. And I think I totally underestimated how big a piece of the art was like team and culture and like keeping people excited and frankly just keeping people together. Like the tribal knowledge of the learnings over the course of building a company is so insanely valuable. And when I think about, people that we have hired from competitors or from companies that are later stage and stuff like that, I just think about like the thing I think that stands out the most is just how fired up people are, how like a unified and aligned people are. And what that results in is you get a lot of people not doing these small self-optimization problems, but thinking about this larger optimization problem, which is moving this company forward to the next stage. And I think like that is all rooted in culture where people actually care about something bigger than just like my square on the screen on this call or my metric that I'm looking at. And I mean, it's a hard thing to assess from the outside, but it's almost like I didn't even look at it. Like if I looked at a business and I got the deck and I saw 20% month over month growth, 1.4 million in ARR and 2 million spent, I'm like, great, let's get on a call. This is probably going to be good enough. And now, like, if I got on there and I looked and I saw, oh, you had 7 people of your 14 people leave in the last 6 months, like that probably stops the show for me now. Whereas back then, I don't even think I would have looked at that data, which is like, maybe that's probably a commentary on my own skill and detail orientation. But like, these are the things that I definitely like have been revelated to me going through doing it well and poorly at times.
I love it. That was awesome. Thank you. Kate, please jump in.
Yeah. So one piece that I think that honestly I've seen just like being a founder in the space that I didn't appreciate is important is founder market fit. And the way that I think about this is not like I have the experience to be good in this sector. It's I'm willing to live and breathe this sector and figure out how to push through every rock that is going to be thrown at me to figure out the opportunity in this space. And I think that like the founders that I've seen, I've been at this for, 4+ years now. I've seen so many businesses, start and fail. And when I think about like what didn't work, it's like the founder wasn't in it enough. Like I think for the right reasons. And when I see that like fire in the belly of a founder, I seem to find that they figure out how to make it work. So I think that that's something that I would index more to. Obviously, like that, the founder is so important, but like that founder market fit, like are they building in a space that they're excited about figuring out the opportunities? Kind of building on what Andy was talking about on the team piece, something that is harder than maybe it appears it should be from the outside or from an investor looking in, is not just creating that culture, but the cultural alignment. And so something that I think that I've reflected on, we can do better, and that I've seen as the business grows is increasingly important, is having top level metrics that align the entire business. So whether you call them OKRs or KPIs, that aren't just revenue. I think historically, we've only thought about like ARR and like net revenue retention and growth, and that becomes a sales problem always. But now we've like thought about what's the core metric that matters to the entire business? How can product affect that? How can customer success affect that? How can sales affect that? And now we've given a common language to everyone in a way that I've actually already seen product change their behavior in a way that is better supporting the growth of the business and aligning, as you talked about, kind of that common goal. So I think that we over-indexed at the beginning on revenue because that's like what you report on. It's like, how much are you growing? But now we have a better team alignment about how these things all work together.
Product usage metrics, customer love, are they actually like, what are they reporting on? Is there any other metric that is worth sharing that doesn't like reveal state?
So, I mean, like the customer love, of course, but like how that like works its way in, like we've realized that when brands are collecting first party data and we can track that revenue attribution, that's when we can really show value. And so what that means, we have pretty big pipeline of Salesforce, and we have a massive pipeline of Salesforce Commerce Cloud. Without the ability to show that revenue attribution, we cannot articulate our value. So now product is excited about integrations, which no product person is ever excited about integrations, because that is like the core metric that matters. And so our ability to quantify our value and align that to product now makes product excited about integration. So that's kind of where we've seen the aligned behavior come through.
Perfect. All right, we got a minute left. I want to create space if you have any words of wisdom for brands right now, but if not, just literally where can folks find you? Kait, I want to start with you, and then Andy will wrap up.
Yeah. So words of wisdom for, I think, everyone is that like, this is just, so for brands, I mean, I see this as, this is painful right now, but it's temporary pain. I mean, I've been spending a lot of time thinking about talking to customers around tariffs specifically. I think like the general worldview is that this is a means to an end, not the end, and that the business community needs to continue to put pressure on the administration to educate them on the damage that this is causing. And so that's, my view is the more you can educate the administration, that will accelerate this ending, or at least in the uncertain way in which it is. I can be found on LinkedIn, Kait Stevens, and I, post a bunch of content there about Omni-Channel, being a founder, and being a mom.
Thank you. Andy, hand it off to you.
Yeah, I can be found on LinkedIn. Follow Beware. Some content will be good, some content will be entertaining, and some content will be neither. But just keep up with it. But yeah, LinkedIn, Twitter's a burner for me if you want to hear about whatever jam bands I'm seeing and stuff like that. But yeah, and reach out anytime.
I love it. Thank you both. I took a bunch of notes. This was really informative for me. Hopefully it was useful for others as well. But selfishly, I don't really care about them. So I got a lot of value. Really appreciate both your time. Thanks, Andy and Kait.
Thank you, Aaron.
Appreciate it.